What's up, everybody? Ben Rasa and Greg Ehrenberg back here at Awesemo Odds, and we are bringing you more NFL best bets. Thursday night football. Once again, the season is rolling on. It's not quite Thanksgiving, so we've got some games before Turkey Day, and this one, of course, I'm going to get out in front of it. The 28-3 is going to litter your Twitter. We've got the Patriots. We've got the Falcons, Greg. Obviously not the best game, but there are some storylines here to talk about. What do you think of the game? Just first impressions before we dive into our bets.
It's a lot of injuries, like every single third. And who knows? It would not be the first time they've had to scrap one of these that we've recorded. So you and I are talking now, whether the people at home are listening to this, that remains to be seen. But, there's so many key players that are listed as questionable, most notably Cordarrelle Patterson, who appears to be trending towards not playing, but right now his status is up in the air. And then for the Patriots, their entire backfield, Damian Harris dealing with a concussion. We've got Bolden. He's dealing with a hip injury. He's questionable to play. So there's a whole lot of moving parts there. And that's why also, if you look at the props that are available to us for this game at the time that we're recording, there's no rushing yard props available because nobody knows who's the running back on either team.
No doubt about it. A lot of mystery here, and that is why you're obviously going to want to stay focused, stay tuned as the news breaks. But there are some spots I think are worth jumping on right now, actually, before the news. And certainly one other thing you need to take advantage of, and you're going to want to, is our sponsor and friends at BetMGM offering that promo for new users. And I know a lot of you are going to be eligible as new users. If you deposit $10 or more in BetMGM using the link in the description of this video, you are going to get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. In addition, we are going to provide you with 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And what that means is we're going to cover you on the DFS and betting side for all our sports, not just the NFL, everything we've got. Greg and the team doing hoops, college sports with Matt G, every single thing, projections, ownership, all the tools that we use day in and day out. So no reason not to take advantage of that. Now, here we go. First bet for me is going to be ugly. I do think, though, there is a theme kind of on these Thursday night games that teams rightfully slow. They're a little injured. They're a little hurt. There's just not the crispness to the offense. Under 47.5 points here. And now you look at them. They're both coming off ridiculously different games. The Patriots destroyed the Browns. The Falcons were destroyed. But I think more importantly than that, again, is just the tempo and what these teams want to do. Regardless, New England's going to have someone in the backfield. Someone's going to be running the ball for them. Mac Jones has certainly looked good, but I still don't look at them as a high-octane, up-tempo type offense. I don't see that. On the other side, Matt Ryan, I don't really know what's going on. I'm going to talk about him again in this video, but a couple of the past 3 weeks, he hasn't thrown the ball 30 or more times. He had 9 completions in the last game. It's just not working right now. You add in that Cordarrelle Patterson might be missing another, big weapon down without Ridley. I don't think this team is going to be that effective. I think the Patriots are going to do a very good job at limiting them. Both teams methodical outputs. I'm going to get things started, Greg, under 47.5 points.
Hey, it makes sense. It's a short week. Teams playing on Thursday after playing on Sunday. There's also the situation where, like you mentioned, there's all the injuries. We've talked about all those. So I think that's certainly something that makes sense. And that's why if you look at our player props tool, there's a bunch of numbers that stick out as unders right now. And one that I'm looking at is Olamide Zaccheaus, who we currently have projected as the under 35.5 receiving yards, a pretty good prop to target. And even if Cordarrelle Patterson ends up being out in this spot, it's hard for me to look at Zaccheaus and think that his average outcome is going to be to have over 35.5 yards. So I think for fantasy purposes, DFS, we're looking at it from that angle. It's this guy's a good value play because of the potential upside he has in tournaments. But you look at him last week with all the injuries that the Falcons had. He was targeted 7 times. He only caught 2 of them for 22 yards. And I go back to, do you remember the Zaccheaus chalk week last year, Ben?
Of course. How could I forget?
So he had the game where Julio Jones got hurt mid-game against the Green Bay Packers. Zaccheaus finished with nearly 100 receiving yards. And then the next week, Julio Jones was out again. The Falcons were beat up, and everybody goes, hey, I'm going to go roster Zaccheaus next week. He was the chalk play on the main slate. If I remember correctly, he was like 40% owned. He ends up catching 1 pass for 13 yards in that game. The main takeaway here is I think that there could be a little bit of an overreaction whenever there's injuries on the Falcons in terms of what we could expect from a consistency standpoint from Zaccheaus. So the upside's there, but I think he's more likely to hit the under on his receiving yard props than really what the over is.
I'm with you, and I think it's just the Falcons in particular. I just want to go back even a couple of weeks. We get news Ridley is going to be ruled out, late breaking news on a Sunday, and immediately like most people, I think, oh my God, Russell Gage, huge spot. Finished that game with 0 targets, not receptions, 0 targets. Taji Sharp was dominating. And I think the Falcons do that more than other teams. It's just not a really distinct hierarchy. So when you look at these second tier personnel guys that possibly are sliding in, it is not a given that we see someone like Zaccheaus certainly benefit. So we have to keep an eye on that. But I am with you. I think there's a lot of unknowns. I'm actually going to take the macro approach to what you're talking about with Matt Ryan's passing yards. Under 253.5 here in the spot. And I think it's the simple fact that Cordero Patterson was and has been and will continue to be I'm kind of shading it that he sits here, a really good safety blanket and a super reliable pass catcher. It's not to say that Davis can't do that, but I do think if Wayne Gallman gets some share, that maybe the Falcons, again, playing into the under, lean on the ground game a little more. And just looking at Matt Ryan, obviously, he's shown he can still do it. He's got a bunch of big-time passing games. And he's got 2 games in his last 3 where he's been under 150 yards passing. So right now, it's just not working. The attempts have been down. Again, 27, 30, and 21 pass attempts in his last 3 games. I think that unless the volume or the personnel changes, I see another pedestrian output here. So I hate to be a downer. I'm sure you don't feel great about telling the people, just bet all the unders. But you know what? We have to go where the value is. And to me, on Thursday, the unders distinctly look better than the overs.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And also, if you play on a site that allows for same game parlays, there's a little bit of correlation taking a bunch of the unders here. You take the unders on some of the passing yards, unders on some of the receiving yards, unders on the overall game total. And, there's some correlation there that could lead to more upside in the card.
Well said. I mean, again, I think we have to keep an eye on that. Certainly later in the week, keep an eye on the Awesemo Odds channel. And of course, that Odd Shopper, you'll be hearing about it throughout the day as we get more late breaking news for these showdowns. On your way out, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. A lot of fun content coming here at Awesemo Odds. So for me, for Greg, for Thursday Night Football, good luck, friends. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you guys soon.